Last year's Atlantic hurricane season was the busiest on record, and this year it's expected to be active once again. I'm breaking down NOAA's Atlantic hurricane season outlook in this week's Heather's Weather Wise. The Atlantic Basin produced 30 named tropical systems in 2020. 14 became hurricanes, and the last storm, which formed in November, wound up being the strongest as a Category 5. Last year was just the second hurricane season to need an alternate list using the Greek alphabet names after exhausting the original 2020 list. Starting this year, that list will no longer be used. This will be the new alternate list going forward. Last year's season was devastating and awful for so many communities, and this year is not expected to be that intense. But forecasters at NOAA are pretty confident that enough factors are going to come together to make another above-average hurricane season. Their official forecast calls for 13 to 20 named storms, so that's a tropical storm or a hurricane, 6 to 10 of those becoming a hurricane, and 3 to 5 of those becoming a major hurricane. Each of the last 5 Atlantic hurricane seasons have produced more storms than the 30-year average running from 1981 to 2010. This year, data sets are shifting to a new set of normals running from 1991 to 2020. That shift has pushed the average number of named storms and hurricanes up just a bit. There's 3 major factors that NOAA forecasters highlighted as major factors in this year's Atlantic hurricane season. And top of that list, warmer than normal ocean temperatures. Actually, there are already some pretty big patches of the Atlantic tropical basin that are already there. And that warm water, we're talking 83 degrees plus, is hurricane fuel. Trade winds in the tropics are also expected to be weaker than normal. Weaker winds mean less shear to potentially shred developing storms apart. The third factor is an active African monsoon. And I know what you're thinking, well, what does that have to do with the tropical Atlantic? Well, according to data collected by NOAA, more than half of all named storms in the Atlantic Basin and 85% of eventual major hurricanes originate as little areas of low pressure right over Central Africa. If those hold together long enough, move out over open water in just the right conditions, they can spin up into tropical systems very quickly. Here's the good news. Scientists with NOAA have taken some big steps in the last year to improve hurricane forecasting abilities. They've improved the accuracy of the American model and increased its sight from 10 days out to 16. They've also incorporated a lot of observation data into the model, and it will deploy its largest fleet of unmanned observing stations this season, and that includes drones, which will launch from Hurricane Hunter aircraft. Obviously, even the best forecasting tools can't stop the inevitable, but it can hopefully improve forecasts and improve the lead time, giving those communities at greatest risk even more time to prepare. But remember, whether we get 5 named storms or 20 or 25, it only takes one landfall to devastate a community, and that's why NOAA's acting director is urging preparedness now if you live in one of those higher risk areas. And that includes inland regions that are prone to coastal flooding from these systems. That's it for this week's Heather's Weather Wise. I'll see you next week with a new topic, but until then, remember it's good to be a geek.